first of all, I noticed my seeker. I've had a seeker that, what I think I've kidded myself before was I might have a long-term goal of getting something, or not getting, or achieving, kind of like a school project or whatever. That would be the analogy. And knowing that that's there, then I do my day-to-day, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm okay with what's happening during the day. But I think that the goal at the end anchors me in a sense of security. And recently that particular goal went away, and so now I don't have one out there. And then I went to a yoga class in which that teacher did not teach with an apex pose. And during yoga, I noticed myself getting more and more agitated because I didn't have anywhere to go. And it dawned on me when I came home, my agitation, that I didn't have a purpose. So I'm noticing having those goals, even though they don't necessarily aren't going to make me better, happier, or whatever, they seem to be an anchor point.
Yeah.
And right now I have neither. And I notice the fear of not being able to, or not being able to trust, but not fully trusting.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of there.
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful, like, because what happens, I remember when I was younger, I used to live in units of time. So I used to have my day mapped out, and it was like I was always living in a unit of time, and this relaxed me. And this is a total illusion, and actually this creates a sense of deadness because you're always living in a timeline. And so
Yes.
when you do begin to take it away, I think it will produce fear because you've been identified for a period of time, or that body's been identified for a period of time with this living, knowing what's coming or knowing what's happening.
Yes.
And this doesn't bring you any freedom, knowing what's happening. We used to believe that it brought us freedom or security, but it doesn't actually. It brings a deadness and a unspontaneity. What's that word? When you're not spontaneous. And so when you begin to unpeel these things, I think it can produce lots of fear. But this is what happens. Seems to be the waking up process, and then that fear gets explored, and then at some point that will stop presenting itself. It can only get explored when you take things away. Often it can only be explored, and it's not even you exploring it. Like at the beginning of the conversation, you said, I've seen the seeker, but who is it that even sees the one that's seen the seeker? We often personify consciousness or personify beingness and believe that it could see the seeker, but beingness, consciousness can't think. So it can only see it instantaneously, but it can't register that it's done that in time.
Sorry, I'm on Skype. Okay. I guess you could have seen him kiss me. Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with that because I think I do get feelings of, yeah, it's not, yes, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't even put words in it.
But sometimes when you're saying things like saying you've seen the seeker, I get the sense of what you're saying. You've seen the seeking energy. But
yes.
But then it can even go even further, and who is it that even sees that? Because beingness has no quality. It doesn't have a brain to register time. It creates a brain that registers time. So beingness can't think. It's empty. It's like light. It's like light of a film. The light of the film that produces that in a cinema that's projecting the film on the screen, it never moves. It's still. It's always white, bright light, and it never changes from being that. But the colours that are placed over it are moving and changing. The pictures that are placed in front of it are moving and changing and giving the appearance of the film being played. So beingness is like the white light. It doesn't have the ability to see a seeker. Only a brain can see a seeker because that's something in the film. That's an experience. So you seeing the seeker is an experience, but there's something even beyond that one that sees the seeker. But it's beautiful that you've seen the seeker because that would collapse a whole dimension of the separation. But then who is it that sees the one that sees the seeker? It's so cool.
One day, it is, because one day I was listening to you while I was walking, and you were talking about something like that, and you were saying that everything appears for it to see, hear, whatever, and somehow that experience happened where it was completely open. Earlier today, you talked about no boundaries, and absolutely incredible. Probably a microsecond. I have no idea how long. And then, of course, then I went big, came back in.
But even when you do,
gosh.
but when you do come back in, that's been tasted. You see, these are the awakenings, and once that's been tasted, the seer, the person that comes back in, it knows it in some bizarre way, even though it doesn't exist. It kind of knows it in the dream because there's been a tasting, and the person comes back and claims it, and or that's okay on that level. But there is then a knowing of it. Once these awakenings happened, you can't forget it. It's been tasted. And then lots of them happen, and then finally it will go for longer periods, and this will be remembered even stronger and stronger until finally those clouds, that there will be a shift. The person will be happening in this, and the experiencer will be that boundlessness. And then the person will be an appearance coming and going in this, but not the solid experiencer.
Okay, which leads me to my second point or question or whatever.
Yeah.
So one night I woke up with tons of just vibrating energy, and the thought came that said, oh my gosh, it's happening. And then the next thought came back to fear, going, but I'm going to lose Matt, who's my son, my oldest son. And then the other thought came in, but he's just an idea. But it was like the fear of, there is a knowing that all of this is concept, so there have been enough tastes, I think, that I've had those, or it's happened, but then the thinking mind goes, but the world I know will no longer be.
Yeah. And so, and the fear's going to keep coming in until it stops. So there just has to be an exploration of that fear. That fear is going to keep covering it until it stops. It's not really your doing. You can't say, don't be afraid, I refuse to be afraid now. It has to keep appearing until that energy of that fear is run out. So then, while you feel separate and you can do things, there can be an exploration of those fears. Like, who is it that you think you'll lose from your son? I mean, because you've never really truly seen your son. Your son is that golden light that's shining on your head. You can't see it, but the sunlight's shining on you. He's not something that you describe in time. He's never been that body. That one that animates the body is beingness, not a separate entity that lives inside his body.
That night, both of those came through.
Yeah.
Both of those things came through, because it was the first one. Whatever was happening. Then I got the constriction, and then I was like, well, but if it's happening, there's no me, then there's no him, and he's the idea, and I already know he's the idea.
Yeah.
So it was kind of both.
Yeah.
But I think the fear kind of won out.
Yeah, it often does.
I think the fear won. And I even feel like even my call to you today was more for a desire of reassurance, really. Yeah. And the seeker and the fear person, and I'm like, well, seriously, I don't even need that, because that doesn't what you give me. That's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I right when I say that?
Yeah.
So
say the last bit again. What I give you? What?
Reassurance that it's okay that I'm going through this.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's okay to ask for my reassurance, but ultimately there has to be an exploration of what's underneath that, and that can be really beautiful to be able to talk and for me to say it's all okay, but at the same time there has to be a bringing a light on that fear that's underneath. So it's not wrong calling and asking and saying these things. I think that it's created a really beautiful dialogue and conversation, but at the same time, always an exploration of what's underneath things, the illusions that come up. So it's nice that that's conscious, that you know also that you're wanting validation, but at the same time, the call has been really beautiful conversation. It hasn't just all been about validating or anything. There's been other things that have come up. So. Okay, yeah, because it's kind of like, because even before as I was calling you, I'm like, is it my seeker that wants that? So, yeah,
Yeah, I think as I do, because even the night that I had the fear, there was some exploration with that, where I could feel him, I could feel the thought, I could feel the fear, I could feel the energy, and it was just kind of all over the place. And then eventually I fell asleep and it was fine. But it's the not having the anchor is really weird right now. But I'm kind of seeing how also, like you were telling the previous caller, life will tell you what to do when you do it as it shows up.
Yeah, and I think it's really beautiful and brave that that's being explored. Those not having those anchors, because not many people in society will support that. So.
But to be honest too, I also live in I'm married and I have financial stability. So in a way, I don't know if I'm copping out that way too. But not to say, oh, I'll forsake everything that I have and own and everything, but so I don't know if it's truly authentic, my lack of seeking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't give it too much thought. I would keep exploring what's underneath. Like the thought's just the surface level.
Okay. I think you answered. I think we did it.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a beautiful garden. You live in a lovely place. I love fern trees.
Lovely. It's lovely. It is gorgeous here. Yes,
nice.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for calling me.
You. And thank you. You have helped me time and time again. So thank you for everything you.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, sweet.